The dust of San Meridio drifted through the late summer air like powdered rust, settling on the empty road that cut between the cliffs and the dry riverbed. The high desert was quiet that morning, too quiet. The sort of stillness that presses into a man's ears like cotton, the sort that makes even the wind feel guilty for whispering. But the worst part wasn't the silence. It was the screaming that had happened. Long before the quiet arrived, screaming that had faded into whimpers, and then into nothing at all. 5 young Apache girls, Kaya, Sani, Dolly, Winona, and little Tiva, hung upside down. From the dead limbs of the hanging tree, thick rawhide straps bound their ankles. To the high branches, their arms dangling toward the sand below, their long black hair swaying like mourning banners. Their faces were swollen, red, and dust-covered, and the blood had rushed to their heads for hours, turning their vision into a blur of fading shapes. They were alive, but only barely. Vultures hopped across the branches, waiting. The men who had done it, drunken cowhands, opportunistic buffalo skinners, and 2 renegade deputies, had ridden off before sunrise, leaving the girls to die slow. They'd heard rumors of Apache raiders nearby and decided to send a message they knew no sheriff would punish them for, a message they figured no one important would ever care about. But someone was coming, and they had no idea who. Miles away, a grizzled rancher named Colt Brannigan rode his big dun horse along the ridge above the desert flats. Colt was the kind of man whose silence spoke louder than most men's tempers. His face bore the sun-baked lines of 1,000 hard days, and his eyes, grey like gunmetal, missed nothing. He wasn't born a hero. Hell, he wasn't even born a good man. But he had a code, and that code was as old as the first fence post ever hammered into disputed land. You don't harm the innocent, ever. He'd been checking the northern fence line when his horse's ears twitched toward the south. In the distance, a faint shape fluttered among the dead trees. Colt narrowed his eyes. It didn't look like a banner. It didn't move like a wagon top. It moved like human hair. Colt spurred his horse. The desert blurred beneath him, cactus and brush whipping past in streaks. The dun thundered down the slope in full gallop as Colt leaned low, gripping the reins tight enough to whiten his knuckles. He had seen dark things before, lynchings, ambushes, massacres, but something about the shape in those branches felt wrong, even from half a mile away. Too small, too fragile. When Colt reached the edge of the dry riverbed, his breath caught in his throat. It wasn't one body, it was 5. 5 small shapes hanging limp against the sky, twisting slowly in the dry wind. "Hell," Colt whispered. His voice cracked like a brittle matchstick. He leapt off his horse before it fully stopped and sprinted to the tree. The sight hit him like a rifle butt to the chest. These weren't grown warriors, nor raiders, nor outlaws. These were girls, children, no older than 12 or 13, except the smallest, who looked hardly more than 8. One of them, Kaya, managed a weak groan as Colt approached. Her lips were cracked, blood crusted around her nostrils. "Easy, little one," Colt murmured, reaching up. He sliced through the rawhide strap with his bowie knife, catching the girl's body before she crumpled face first into the sand. She wheezed, her breath shallow, the world spinning as gravity reclaimed her blood. Colt laid her gently on a saddle blanket. He worked fast after that, dropping each girl one by one, checking pulses, checking breaths. His hands shook, not from fear, but from rage. Whoever had done this wasn't just cruel, they were cowards. When all 5 lay on the ground, Colt grabbed his canteen and dribbled water between their cracked lips. Not too fast, not too much. He'd seen men die from drinking too quickly after dehydration. Kaya stirred first. Her eyelids fluttered. "Who are you?" she whispered in Apache. Colt knew enough of the language to understand. "A friend," he said. "Hold still. You're safe now." She looked around wildly, trembling. They said we were thieves, that we took their cattle. We didn't. We never." "I know," Colt said. His jaw tightened until a vein stood out along his temple. The smallest girl, little Tiva, let out a tiny whimper. Colt knelt beside her. She clutched something in her fist, something so small he didn't notice it at first. When her fingers loosened, a carved wooden doll fell into his palm. A mother-made toy. Colt swallowed hard. Then his eyes hardened like forged steel. He stood, scanning the sand for hoofprints. He found them, the trail of several horses riding west, tracks fresh, dust still settling. He crouched, brushing his fingers along one of the prints. 2 shod mustangs, he muttered. 1 big Appaloosa, and that smaller mare limps, left hind. He could track them blindfolded. Colt walked back to his horse, grabbed his repeater rifle from its scabbard, and checked the chamber. Full. He cinched the saddle tighter, then something tugged weakly at his sleeve. It was Winona, her voice barely audible. They said they'd come back. Tonight. Colt's eyebrow lifted. Come back? For us, Kaya rasped behind her. To finish it. Colt felt the anger in his chest flare white-hot. He hadn't felt fury like that in years, not since the day raiders burned his home and took everything he once loved. He looked at the 5 girls, wounded, broken, terrified, but alive, and he made a promise to himself right then, a promise carved into his very bones. No man who touched these children would leave this desert standing. He stood, leveling his rifle toward the western horizon. Tell you what, Colt growled, his voice low as rolling thunder. I'll send those bastards a message of my own. He turned to the girls. You're safe. I'll be back by sundown. And with that, Colt Brannigan swung into his saddle, kicked his horse into a full run, and thundered across the desert, riding straight toward the men who thought the West belonged to them. They had no idea the storm that was coming, but they were about to learn, and the West was about to remember the name Colt Brannigan. The sun was dipping low when the riders returned, 4 shadows cutting across the rust-red desert like vultures gliding toward a carcass. They were laughing, drunk on whiskey and arrogance. Certain the Apache girls would be dead by now. Certain no one would dare interfere. But someone had, and he was waiting. Colt Brannigan sat on a boulder beside the hanging tree, rifle resting across his knees. The 5 rescued girls hidden safely in a ravine behind him. The last rays of sunlight glinted off his gun barrel as the riders approached. The leader, Deputy Cray Lomas, reined in his horse. Well, what do we got here? Some hero playing guardian angel. Colt didn't move, didn't blink. The girls are alive, he said, and you're about to answer for what you did. The men exchanged looks, first confused, then amused. That was their final mistake. Cray smirked. And what are you gonna do? 1 man against 4? Colt stood slowly, dust swirling around his boots. You boys must be real drunk, he said, racking around into his repeater. Or real stupid. Cray spat. Get him! The world snapped into violence. Colt fired once. 1 rider fell. A second shot. Another tumbled from his saddle. The remaining 2 panicked, scrambling for their rifles. But Colt was already moving. He charged forward, slammed 1 man off his horse, and pinned him to the sand with a knee to the throat. Cray tried to run. Colt tackled him beside the roots of the hanging tree, the same place the girls had suffered. Cray's hand trembled as Colt pulled him up by the collar. You did this to children, Colt growled. Children. Cray's voice cracked. We were sending a message. Here's mine. A single rifle blast echoed through the valley. When the dust settled, the hanging tree stood silent again. No victims this time, only justice. Colt returned to the girls, lifting the youngest into his arms. You're safe now. No one's ever touching you again. And as he led them toward safety, the legend of the rancher who defied evil began spreading through the West like wildfire. If you want to hear what Colt does to the men responsible, make sure you're subscribed. You don't want to miss next chapter.